On January 27, 2026, Prime Minister Narendra Modi stood beside President Ursula von der Leyen of the European Commission and President Antonio Costa of the European Council to formally announce the conclusion of India-European Union Free Trade Agreement. This was not merely a trade pact, it was the culmination of nearly 2 decades of negotiations, collapses, political recalculations, and shifting global power balances. President von der Leyen described it as the mother of all deals. Prime Minister Modi referred to it as a blueprint for shared prosperity. The agreement links nearly 2 billion people and accounts for approximately 25% of global GDP. But scale alone does not define significance. To understand this agreement, its concessions, its asymmetries, its geopolitical implications, one must understand why it failed the first time. Negotiations began in 2007 under what was called Broad Based Trade and Investment Agreement or BTIA. Between 2007 and 2013, 16 rounds of formal negotiations took place. Yet by 2013, talks were suspended indefinitely. The disputes were not minor, they were structural. At the time, India imposed tariffs of up to 110% on imported automobiles. These tariffs were not accidental. They were industrial policy tools designed to protect domestic manufacturers such as Tata Motors and Mahindra. The European Union demanded deep tariff cuts, not gradual ones. India refused. Wine tariffs stood at approximately 150%. For European exporters, particularly France, Italy, and Spain, this was a market closure. India considered alcohol a politically sensitive sector due to state level taxation and regulatory frameworks. No compromise was reached. The European Union sought so called TRIPS plus protections. Intellectual property rules stronger than the World Trade Organization requirements. India resisted, particularly in pharmaceuticals. India is one of the world's largest producers of generic medicine. Stronger patent enforcement could have increased drug prices and reduced export competitiveness. The European Union pushed for binding labor and environmental provisions. India viewed these as potential trade linked regulatory intrusions. By 2013, political space for compromise had evaporated. The deal was shelved. Negotiations resumed in June 2022. Three global shocks altered incentives. The Russia Ukraine conflict reshaped Europe's strategic calculus. The intensifying United States China trade rivalry pushed countries towards supply chain diversification, often referred to as de risking. And the COVID 19 pandemic exposed global supply chain fragility. Trade policy became inseparable from national security. For India, expanding access to high income markets became urgent. For the European Union, diversification away from both the United States and China became strategic. Yet, even after revival, progress was slow. The most contentious modern issue was Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism (CBAM). Now, let's look at the economic baseline to understand the asymmetry. Before the agreement, total goods trade stood at approximately $136.5 billion. India exported roughly $75.8 billion in goods to the European Union. Imports from the European Union were approximately $60.7 billion. Services trade added roughly $83 billion. India maintained a modest trade surplus, but dependency ratios reveal more. The European Union accounts for about 11.5% of India's total trade. India accounts for approximately 2.4% of total European Union trade. The asymmetry shaped bargaining leverage. India needed access proportionally more. The automotive concession is the structural heart of the agreement. Previously, tariffs on imported European vehicles were as high as 110%. Under the new agreement, tariffs fall immediately to 40% for vehicles priced above 15,000 euros. Over 10 years, tariffs decline further to 10%. An annual quota of approximately 2,500,000 vehicles is established. Electric vehicles are excluded from the agreement for 5 years, protecting India's emerging EV ecosystem. This is unprecedented. For the first time, India is opening its premium automotive segment to face European competition. Financial markets reacted sharply. Shares of Maruti Suzuki, Hyundai India, Tata Motors, and Mahindra declined following the announcement. Investors anticipate intensified competition from European manufacturers such as BMW, Mercedes Benz, and Volkswagen. From the European perspective, this is arguably the most commercially valuable gain. Wine tariffs dropped from 150% to 75% immediately. Over time, they declined to between 20 and 30% depending on category. Olive oil tariffs fall from 45% to 0 within 5 years. Machinery tariffs previously up to 44% are reduced or eliminated. Chemical tariffs previously up to 22% will decline. Pharmaceutical tariffs previously up to 11% are reduced. European companies are projected to save approximately 4 billion euros annually in tariff costs. The European Union will eliminate tariffs on 99.5% of Indian goods. Approximately 90% become zero duty immediately. This includes textiles, leather, footwear, gems, marine products. Textiles alone employ millions of workers. The government of India projects between 6 and 7 million additional jobs could emerge. While ambitious, even partial realization would significantly impact employment. Sensitive agricultural sectors remain excluded. India did not liberalize dairy, wheat, rice, sugar, beef. Agriculture remains politically sensitive with roughly 58% of rural households dependent on farming. The European Union also retains protections in specific agricultural categories. Both sides preserved domestic stability. The European Union described India's commitments in services as among the most ambitious secured in any recent trade agreement. Financial services, telecommunications, maritime services, and information technology sectors gain expanded access. A 5 year mobility framework includes approximately 100,000 work permits annually and 35,000 graduate residence permits. This strengthens people to people integration. Carbon border adjustment mechanism is the unresolved risk. CBAM imposes carbon related charges on imports of steel, aluminium, cement, and fertilizers if exporting countries have weaker carbon pricing regimes. India has sought flexibility. European officials argue that exemptions are legally complex. The issue remains unsolved. If applied stringently, CBAM could offset tariff gains for carbon intensive industries. On the same day as trade announcement, India and European Union concluded a security and defense partnership. Cooperation areas include maritime security, cyber security, space situational awareness, counter-terrorism, and intelligence coordination. India joins Horizon Europe research initiatives. Green hydrogen cooperation frameworks were signed. The agreement is economic in structure but strategic in intent. Now we come to the ratification and implementation of the agreement. The agreement must undergo legal review, translations into all 24 official European Union languages, approval by European Council, ratification by European Parliament, and domestic processes in India. Implementation is expected towards late 2026. Until then, it remains politically contingent. Is this agreement historic? Yes, because it ends a 20-year stalemate. Is it transformative? Potentially, but only if implementation proceeds smoothly and CBAM disputes are managed constructively. Economically, India gains substantial export access. Strategically, the European Union advances its diversification strategy. This agreement reflects a broader shift in global trade policy. In an era where supply chains are politicized and trade is weaponized, economic agreements now function as instruments of strategic alignment. After 20 years of negotiation, India and European Union have chosen alignment. The long-term impact will depend not on the ceremony but on execution.